and test for positioning. Things that are held down here. Now I think that needs to come round a touch. Let's just see. That's better. Right. Things held down here. Things held to the camera. Things held to the camera. Things held up here. Things held like this. Okay, we'll see what that looks like. What am I doing? I don't think that's on. Yes, it is on. We are recording. Good. Okay. This is a video diary piece which illustrates the silly obsession I have with detail and perhaps go some way towards explaining why progress on this house has been so slow over the years, because my concentration on getting little details right, details which nobody will notice in the end, has been something which preoccupies me when it shouldn't do. We've talked about, I think, or at least I've talked about, this mock newel post, which is going to finish the dado rail and the skirting, because it wasn't possible to make a sensible transition from the height of the dado rail here round to the dado rail in the corridor without doing some fiddling around here. And in the end, the solution is a mock newel post, sort of half round newel post here. The original idea was a piece like this, which is wrapped around or cut, built to fit around the end of the stone skirting. Initially I made this decorative piece to go on top, which is a straight rectangle of wood. You can see it there, with a section, and that section happens to be a little bit of the moulding from the old moulding from the door to the upstairs toilet, which was peeling away in a bad state, and I took it all off and replaced it with a slightly more discreet moulding when I decorated upstairs. I think most of this moulding from that door got used as kindling, but this was one piece. There was enough, one short length of it left on the shelf up there, which was enough to do that. So I made that piece and glued it to the top of this, and for a long time that was the base of the newel post, with the intention of having the half round piece there. And so it sat for a long time until I finally got round to making the top piece. Now the top piece has this, the top piece has is made from a rectangular piece of wood with a transition to a half octagon by snaping away these pieces and then cutting it back to put this piece of moulding around it. There's the length of the original piece. That actually came, I picked that piece up in the street. It had been, the black staining is just dirt from tyres, I think. It was lying in the gutter, but I thought I picked it up to reuse it as odds and ends, and now I've been using quite a lot of it. That goes on there with the intention that the half round joins it like that. Now that was fine, we got that far. Then I started thinking about actually fitting it, and looked at this half round joining this half octagon and thought, yes, that works very smoothly. Maybe I don't want to have such an abrupt change from half round to rectangle at the foot. So what did I try to do? First off was that end piece, which is shaped from the end of a rectangle and then sawn through and glued to the end of the post to make, and I'll show you, that piece. And I looked at that and thought, I'm not sure that that's right. So I got Sue to say, which looks better, that or that. And both of us thought that the original idea was best. So I photographed it and sent the photographs to Giles on Facebook and said, which do you think looks best? And he said, that, because the transition is otherwise a bit sudden. Now, not liking that, I thought maybe, recognising that the the original newel post, which is up at the top of the stairs, and that can be seen in this photograph. And here's a pause for the photograph to be shown. It might be more sensible to have the rectangle as the base, similar to the original newel post at the top of this flight of stairs, and a semi-octagonal piece which more nearly approximates to the half round on that upright. All well and good. So the first thing I tried was to make that piece from this section of stopping bead, cutting 22.5-degree angles out of it to make the half octagon, and the dimension across there is the same as the width of that base piece. And I thought to go on the top of that, and I've lost it, where's it gone? There it is. To go on the top of that little piece and of course that would be surmounted by the half round. Now, if I'd been sensible, I would have stopped there, but I photographed that, sent it to Giles, and he said maybe we ought to try and keep this square section integrated somehow, and I think that's probably because that's how it looked. Keeping that piece was how it looked when Giles wrote the message for posterity on the inside of that. But then the question is, if we use that, what do we use it with? Because that looks distinctly peculiar. So having reached what would have been a good stopping point, that I then thought maybe there are better ways of doing it. So the next piece was a slightly different sized base. No, actually that's the same. That's the same same piece, same base, which is same dimensions as the half round, to create the octagon, the half octagon, and use the bit picked up off the street to create the moulding, so that I have the same moulding at the base as I have at the top, but upside down. Then, does that fit on there? No, it needs something else on top of there. How about that? And this bit. What's wrong with that? Not a lot, but I felt that this bottom part was just a touch too big if I compare it with the newel post at the top of this flight of stairs. And of course, that small one is too small. So the next thing is a slightly bigger piece, but made with not the big half round section, but the smaller half round section, piece on the top, but to a slightly larger overall dimensions, but overall dimensions which are less than the big piece. So we now have that as the first level, sitting slightly inside the rectangle, and to go on top of that, that piece. So those, when I cut the two slices of the section from there, are what I think I'm going to finish up with as the base of this newel post. But given the time that I've now spent on this, the only way it could have been more expensive would be if I gold plated it. But I guess I shall finish this and pursue it. But I'm reasonably certain that at this stage, that is it. So there. Going to talk about the details of the top of the post, and this is a test to make sure we have everything in frame. I've got a feeling my head might be out of frame just now. I've mentioned the top piece of the newel post, and it might be worth talking a bit more about that. As I think I've said, I spent a long time, or we spent a long time, with the base and the half-round upright half-round post completed, without any decisions having been made about how this top piece was going to be done. This, by the way, is just held with one screw for the time being, because I wanted, when designing the top of the thing, to have the dado rail in place to see how it looked. That's not yet fixed. But when it came to doing the top piece, I spent a long time thinking about how the top would be finished. it was fairly evident that as far as the bottom was concerned, I needed to have a sensible transition from the half round of the post to what had to be a basically rectangular section at the top, so that this could butt smoothly to it. And that meant, as I've indicated already, the section of the top being the half rectangle, or the half square, making a rectangle, being snaked away at the corners, and I used this this moulding, the one that retrieved from the one retrieved from the street, or found in the gutter, around the edge of that, to create the base of that. And you can see underneath there, or I'll hold it the way up it goes, you can see there the shape of that coming down from the half section, reducing down to the width of the post. So that was easy enough. But when it came to finishing the top of this post, I felt that the nicest thing would be to have a dome on it, as though it were turned, but with perhaps a little wooden button in the centre. But how to do that accurately using hand tools rather than a lathe was difficult. And then it occurred to me that maybe the top of this piece should echo the top of the mahogany, cross-grained mahogany banister rail up there, and the way that finishes. You can see that in this photograph, which I shall, which I took earlier, and I'll pause while you look at it. So I thought that the best thing would be to make a section, make a piece for the top of this rectangular block to reflect that cross-grained mahogany top on the original newel post. And what I've come up with is this. And what is interesting is how this is made. I mean, from the outside it looks perfect, but it took quite some building, quite some making, fiddle, to get it to look right. And I'll just show you how that's been done. On the back, I decided how tall the post should be, and I thought it needs to be that plus the cap on the top, and that was achieved. That was established by holding it against the mahogany rail like that. Sorry, not the mahogany rail, what am I talking about? The data rail like that. So that would be more or less right. So, cut this piece off at that height. That was the first commitment, putting the saw to it. Then I took this section, or this little piece, which is sliced from the edge of that. You can see where I've just sliced it through with the circular saw. That has the right height, or the height that looked appropriate, and I cut it to the thickness I wanted. And those pieces were set around the top there, around the three sides of the top. Below that is this wonderful section again from which I picked up in the gutter, but what I've done here is to trim it along the line of my thumbnail, so that I'm just left with the wide piece at the bottom to create, with the wide piece at the bottom to create that. I might have been holding this rather low just then, so I'll show you again at this height. That's the rectangular piece sliced off the side of the plank. That's the section that goes there to to make these side pieces. Then the round here is made from the stopping bead, which I happen to have a short length of that, of the foot 18 inches, 2 feet of it, and cut pieces from that to fit exactly round that. Again, 45-degree cuts to go around the 3 sides of that. That left a small void, small cavity in the middle, which is filled with filler. Now. Small cavity there. I'm not holding this high enough. That gave me that half round, but with a flat top. So then the question is, how do I achieve that rounded top, which suggests the top of the mahogany banister rail? The answer for that was this section, which I've used somewhere else for other things as well, and I've set that round the top, again 45-degree cuts, and positioned in from the edge. In the centre is a tiny piece of I've forgotten where I can't find the piece I cut it from, but it's just a small half square of wood of the appropriate thickness, standing up a bit higher than the thickness of that, to give me a contour like that. So once those were glued on, I could consider where I was going from there. I started by filling this first piece, thinking maybe I'll just leave this bit flat and then have that square button in the middle, but then decided that I would go the whole hog and fill it and round it off across there. So with filler and wood and so forth, I finished up with this top piece of the newel post, which I'm very pleased with. That's what it looks like on the side, you'll see. And that is the back of it, as you can see it put together. And that's the top of the newel post, which will be fitted there. And I hope quite soon. That is the mark of the base of there, so it'll be at that sort of position. Good, eh?